Testing. What's going on, Mr. Sion? Long time. Thank you for joining. How are you? It's great to see you. We'll give it a few minutes before we start. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Just trying to stay consistent. I hope you're doing well also. Where are you based out of, by the way? Yeah, that's always good. Just staying busy with work. So, you know, all of what's going on, long term, we will win. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that as well. Bitcoin is on a rally right now. SoCal. Which part of SoCal are you from? Everyone joining. Yeah, thank you for joining. Happy Sunday. Let me know where you are watching from. I'm up in the Northern California Bay Area. What's poppin', Abel? Thank you for joining. Appreciate everyone here joining. Hope you all are having a great Sunday. I know I haven't done a live session for the last couple of weeks. I've been just so busy with plans and all that, but just trying to, you know, keep that consistency going. Abel from H Town. So I don't know if you're a basketball fan with the Houston Rockets against the Golden State Warriors. That's going on right now. That's been a good series. All right, so it looks like we have a couple folks joining. I wanted to cover a couple updates first before we go into the Q&A. Definitely put in your comments, questions in the chat. We'll definitely cover all of what I'd like to go through. But right now, Bitcoin price, $94,000. I think this is good. Bitcoin is holding up very well. All of the news around Bitcoin, I think with Citibank now allowing, you know, investors invest in the Bitcoin, that's just huge news that's going on. I want to first off start off with this image, whatever character this is, taking that Bitcoin eye drop and then all of a sudden now seeing that laser sharp focus. That Bitcoin, we got to learn to embrace Bitcoin. Bitcoin is here to stay. I mean, you think about it, about 10 years ago, everyone was like doubting Bitcoin at that time. Of course, that time Bitcoin wasn't as popular, it wasn't gaining traction, but now you even have the president investing into Bitcoin. The moment the government touches it, the moment the Federal Reserve reduces regulations around it, where now even banks can do what they want, we're hearing a lot about Bitcoin altcoins, XRP, Ripple, even Sui, partnering up with Pokemon and all that. Cryptocurrency is going to start blasting off very soon. And what does that mean for different plays like strategy, Bitcoin as a digital commodity, and even the miners? I mean, I'll be covering the miners as well. We've been having a major beatdown. We'll cover all of that. Thank you, Richard, for your comment, and thanks for joining. Hope to see 100,000 this week. I think we're holding up very well just with the price of Bitcoin. We'll cover technical analysis as well, but thank you all for joining. Really appreciate everyone here. Spending time on Sunday to watch me cover the latest updates around the Bitcoin market. But let's continue. One other update is, Arizona could approve a Bitcoin strategic reserve by tomorrow. So you see Arizona Chamber 2. But I think one of the key things is the moment we hear about Texas, That's going to be big news. We have a lot of activities going on in Texas. Energy is relatively cheaper in Texas because of the energy over there. Sunlight's always saturated around that state. But the moment Texas gets Bitcoin enacted, I think that's where we're going to have more clarity around the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Governments are going to start ramping up Bitcoin. Over the weekend, we also heard about 21 XXI getting created. Richard, thank you for joining. I mean, from Oregon, I'm not too far from you, from California. Christian, thanks for joining. I appreciate you joining. Peter also joining. Pete from the UK. This is great. Thank you all. Hope you all are having a good Sunday. Monday in other areas, perhaps. But one of the key things is we're beginning to see Arizona inch and inch away, getting close to that approval for the state reserve race. I mean, most states are now adopting Bitcoin, even California. So it's only a matter of time once we get approval. I mean, think about it. The Federal Reserve just deregulated financial institutions from having to notify them when it comes to any type of activity with crypto markets. We also have, the crypto czar David Sachs. We have Bo Hines, crypto leader in the president team, as well as Senator Cynthia Lummis. We're going to hear a lot of news that's going to be coming out, and we haven't heard so much about the SBR, even gold certificates, Fort Knox. All of that is going to be a race towards, getting Bitcoin. So SoCal watching the Lakers and Timberwolves. So Lakers are up right now. I think they were up by like 8 points. So it's definitely a battle right now between Timberwolves and Lakers. CleanSpark, we'll definitely cover CleanSpark as well. So Bitcoin and strategy, Richard, that's bullish there. The news is not priced in yet, so I definitely agree with you, Peter, and we'll be covering Mara as well. I definitely do think there's some huge suppression with the miners. However, you think about it right now, Mara is the number two company in terms of the biggest hodl right now with Bitcoins, and all of that hasn't been priced in yet. But this is looking good. SBR is really gaining traction. Arizona is, getting close to, having Bitcoin enacted, and then Texas, that's the focal point right there. Michael Saylor, he posts this Sunday, stay humble, stack sats. I mean, you look at this, I mean, just look at this beautiful visual. I mean, what more can you say? Like, just look at this. I mean, during COVID time when everyone was like on computers, like trading stocks, Bitcoin, during 2020 when we had that COVID news breakout with like vaccines being in play, what did Michael Saylor do? He got the news. He had millions of dollars, and you know what? He took an audacious risk. He started buying Bitcoin less than 10,000. He bought big. You see these big orange dots. So these orange dots just recently, that's nothing new. Why? Because Saylor's been doing it since 2020, about 5 years ago. So he created the global game theory early on. I mean, back in 2013, 2015, that's where the real winners are with the retail investors. But we didn't have financial institutions doing this. But look, it doesn't matter if Bitcoin's at 10,000, less than 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, you name it. Dollar cost average is the name of the game. So he consistently buys Bitcoin. And what Saylor is alluding to is tomorrow, Saylor is going to be announcing another update. And I'll be sharing with you what I believe that announcement will be. How much Bitcoin will Saylor announce tomorrow? With all of these variables coming into play, like 21 XXI now, supported by Cantor Fitzgerald, SoftBank. Everyone is copying the Michael Saylor strategy, but I think that that's only going to be a win-win situation. Why? Demand increases. So we know there's only about 21 million Bitcoins out there. So the fact that there's more players at the poker table now, Saylor, he's bringing in more players, playing at like higher stakes, buying up more Bitcoin. What that does is that's going to allow for the price of Bitcoin to go up. We'll cover, Bitcoin yield as a KPI from Michael Saylor as well with strategy, and we'll cover all of the MNAV predictions as well as technicals on, Bitcoin strategy and the miners. So definitely hold on to your questions. I'll be answering all of these questions, but let's continue. Saylor, so he signaled, stack sats. It's definitely going to be likely that we will get an announcement tomorrow on a Bitcoin purchase. The fact that 21 is now a big time whale, not a big whale like Saylor, but a big whale. The fact that you have Cantor Fitzgerald, even Howard Lutnick, who is the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, who is part of the White House. I mean, he has boatloads of Bitcoin. He even has boatloads of strategy and tethered stable coins, and now supporting, CEP 21 XXI. So we always hear about keep your enemies closer. So that's what Cantor Fitzgerald is doing. He's invested in strategy. He's supporting 21. But now when we look at how much Bitcoin will be purchased, what was the last big Bitcoin purchase? That was like March 31st with 22,000. But then what happened April 14th? About 3,000 amounts. The 21st of April, 6,000. So not as big as March 31st. What happened before that? 6,900 purchase on the 24th of March. And then the 17th had a, 130 Bitcoin amount, similar to what like MetaPlanet would do. But then you see late February, that was a big amount. So what I see is the typical trend is, there's about, you know 30 plus thousand Bitcoins every month. So the fact that we're in April and we have, just 10,000, I'm thinking at a minimum tomorrow we're going to have some announcement where it's going to be somewhere around that over 10,000. 10 to 20,000 is my prediction with the Bitcoin amount of purchase, just based on the historical data. All right, let's continue. So Saylor, he posts, the overall gains for year to date when it comes to Bitcoin gain. So you see year to date Bitcoin gain $5.1 billion. That's just huge. I mean, we haven't even got halfway through 2025 yet, but the fact that we got, $5 billion gains just with holding on to Bitcoin as a digital commodity, that's huge. And actually, Saylor is going to be announcing quarterly earnings Q1. I think that's going to be major fireworks to come on Thursday. And there's also the event in a couple weeks, sponsored by Gemini, Google AI, and there's big time players that are going to be there to talk about artificial intelligence and all of that. But the fact that Saylor has, over 500,000 Bitcoins, this company is just going to keep growing in market cap. That's just going to be where strategy is headed. I mean, we talk about Mag 7s. Well, there's going to be a Bitcoin 7 coming out. Why? Look at this MicroStrategy from Simply Bitcoin. He posts, MicroStrategy is the only major stock with positive returns since the Trump's inauguration. Think about it. Tesla on the tail end, dropping, 30, close to 30%. Amazon, Meta, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, even QQQ. But what happened with strategy? I mean, they're treading above water right now. I mean, this is where we're beginning to see a transformation in investing in digital finance. People who work in the United States or around the world right now realize that in order to adapt and make a living and be able to retire early on or even at the normal retirement age is to adapt, diversify into Bitcoin. Financial analysts before, about 5 years ago, it would be risky to consider investing into Bitcoin, but now for a financial analyst not to even um, to include Bitcoin, crypto into investment, that's taking on a risk. So definitely things have changed over the course. Adam Back, I mean, his posts give treasury companies a bit of runtime in the market, and soon enough, the Bitcoin 7, will bypass Mag 7. So right now you have MSTR, you have XXI. Well, you actually have Mara, and then you have XXI as a number three, and then you have number four Riot, number six CleanSpark, and then you have like Tesla, on in Hut 8. So here's an interesting visual in that public companies now hold nearly 700,000 Bitcoins with strategy, holding close to about 80% of the total holdings. Just look at this. This really puts things into context. So we saw what Saylor was doing during COVID time. I mean, he owned, 83% of everything during that time. And of course, there's miners holding on to Bitcoin. But what do you see? Strategy still owns most of the Bitcoin. You see here, 77% because of Strategy's HODL strategies, sucking up all that fiat and just buying up Bitcoin. You think about it, there's only 21 million. All of the other companies, that includes like Mara, Riot, CleanSpark, along with like XXI, they fall under this category. But 80-20 rule, MSTR has most of the Bitcoin, so they're taking that lead. Definitely a competitive advantage. And when you have this, other companies adopting and embracing Bitcoin strategy, holding on Bitcoin on their treasury, that's where it's only going to be a two-pronged approach where it will stimulate the price of Bitcoin, and as a result, MSTR stock will go up. Here's another interesting post. Vanguard, big time financial institution, they're buying up more and more strategy stocks. I mean, just adding 646,000 MSTR stock. Now they actually hold 2.6 million shares worth, close to about, $950 million. So we hear Cantor Fitzgerald, Canadian banks, even California retirement funds, buying strategy. I think people are catching on quite well, and people are taking advantage of that top off of 550 back in November, just dollar cost averaging down, just hodling up MSTR. Why? Because MSTR is the ultimate hedge towards Bitcoin, and that's really the reason why. And let's say when Bitcoin 1x's goes up 100%, let's say Bitcoin goes up to like 100% gain to like 200K. What will happen with MSTR's price? Let me know what you think. Like, what's going to be the percentage gain if Bitcoin ramps up to 200K? Here's an interesting post from Supply Shocks. Anybody who thinks that Saylor isn't going to ratchet up the buying over the next few months before the XXI reverse acquisition finalizes hasn't been paying attention. And we've heard from Saylor at one point. I mean, he's talked about how he thought about this vision. He embraced Bitcoin, but he was always afraid that someone would figure it out before he did and just continues to buy up Bitcoin. I think Saylor feels comfortable now that he has, the amount that he has, but still, he won't be stopping anytime soon. Even if Bitcoin is $1 million or $14 million, Saylor will continue to buy Bitcoin. Now, let's transition over to a post from Pacer regarding Mara miners. So, Mara, miners are coming back to life, but money has been flowing in since March, as shown below. Expect a move to the $20-$22 area first for a 30 dollar plus move later. So let's just zoom in. We definitely do see the money inflows coming in, which is a key signal for confidence. But what do we see? Just downward slope. I mean, lower highs, lower lows. Mara obviously has been just beat down from that $30 top point since November. It's dropped very fast. I mean, there's so much volatility that we've seen. We didn't expect for the miners to drop so much. A lot of shorts, took a lot of action, but I think that the bears ate enough salmon, and now it's really going to be the bulls that are going to be coming out to take advantage. So kudos to you if you were able to buy at like sub $10 for Mara. I think we're going to be off to the races. Where current price action is above $14. I'm thinking, as we head into the upcoming week, we're just going to, round up closer towards that $20 range in the near term. Q3, somewhere in Q2, Q3, we're easily going to, reach that prior resistance of 30. But the fact that it's dropped so much, this thing has, potential for like 3 to 5x in the near term. Miners do have a lot more volatility, but then that comes with higher risk. But I do think that there's definitely a market sentiment going on right now, especially with technicals. MACD's been picking up, relative strength's been picking up, but Pacer, his posting is that expect a move to $22 first before a $30 plus move. All right, so let me know what your questions are. Thank you all for joining. Happy Sunday. I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys are enjoying this content right now. But let's just continue. All right, so I do cover like the big three miners as well. So let me just share with you a post from Trader. So Riot is showing early strength this week with a bullish engulfing candle forming, signaling a potential shift in momentum as buyers step in with conviction. This pattern suggests that bulls are attempting to regain some control after recent weakness, especially as it develops near the resistance area of the stock's descending channel. Psychologically, this signals growing confidence from buyers who are willing to challenge the broader downtrend. If price can break and close above the upper boundary of the channel, it will mark a significant breakout and could trigger follow-through buying as traders anticipate trend reversal. For now, this is a key inflection point where bulls are making their move and bears will look to defend. So just based on the weekly of Riot, we do see a big beatdown with the MACD bearish divergence, what we see. But I think that what we're seeing with the 12 to 26 day crossing, and we'll cover technicals later, but just based on this visual, we're seeing this bullish engulfing pattern that's seen. I do think that there's going to be the blue crossing to the 12 crossing MACD very soon. But here's what we talk about when it's bullish engulfing, which we do see at this price point, bullish engulfing here. But let's look to see what bullish engulfing really is based on technicals. Look for a bullish engulfing candle at key support or after a downtrend signaling potential reversal. So we saw that example on the charts. Confirm that the bullish candle fully engulfs the previous bearish candle, showing stronger buy power, which we did see. The green candle is much longer than the red candle. Enter a long position at or near the close of the engulfing candle or on a slight pullback. Place a stop loss just below the low of the engulfing candle to manage risks. Set a profit target at the next resistance level or price key zone. So I hope that visual helps. Let's say if you're into the Riot plays. All right, so let's take a look at the comments. So price prediction of One Love prediction is 7,500 Bitcoin for strategy. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean I'm forecasting somewhere around that 4-digit coming up. All right, thank you all for joining. Happy Sunday. Leave your questions, comments in the chat. Christian, what do you think about Bitfarms? So Bitfarms, I think that Bit Farms is breaking out. I mean, what it was 60 cents and now it's over $1. I mean, just in a matter of like, a week or two, it just flipped the switch. Now, you think about Bit Farms. I mean, now they're over $1. So it's a matter of whether Bit Farms can consistently hold up for 30 days. I think that Bit Farms is going to creep back up. I mean, the prior resistance that we saw was like $3, $4. So Bit Farms definitely has room for even more growth. It's actually outperforming a lot of the miners right now. Let's take a look at Fibonacci trading. So he posted, today, Riot power through the trend cloud on the daily, locked in step with the miner crew. So we talked about the bullish engulfing, but now when we look at what's going on with the technicals, is breaking out of that Fibonacci cloud, and now we're seeing Riot hover like close to that $8 range. So this is definitely going to reverse the clouds, where I'm thinking we're going to start seeing price action above the Ichimoku cloud as well, if you like looking at those technicals. But we're going to start seeing green clouds in the forward horizon. Let's also take a look at a postie from Fibonacci Trading. CleanSpark smashed through the trend cloud with real gusto bullish. So what are we seeing? CleanSpark, I mean, a lot of people, like sold CleanSpark because they didn't like the fact that, they're changing their business model to sell Bitcoin. That doesn't mean they're going to sell from their HODL. I think it's just, selling a portion of what they're currently mining. Their hash rate is increasing very fast. I think they're the number 2 company right now when it comes to hash rate, and they're ahead of like Tesla when it comes to the amount of bitcoins on their balance sheet. Over 12,000. Key thing is that price of CleanSpark has been rocketing. I mean, getting down to that low $6 now, above $9. I think next week we're gonna, get back into that double digit range. So we at one point, early 2024, we saw CleanSpark at like what, $3, and then it shot up all the way to like $24 within a matter of weeks. If it has that same performance of 800% gain, think about 800% gain. That'll be like 50 something dollars for CleanSpark. So I definitely do think that there's just so much potential going on. All right, so going back to the chat, thank you guys for all of the interactive comments. I hope you guys are enjoying this content. Let me know what you guys enjoy about this content, what you would like to see more of, what ideas that you have, or suggestions, questions that you have. But let me look at the chat. So Sun Wen, thanks for all the news, man. Hope your channel gets more traffic. It should. I really appreciate that, Sun. First off, we got my parents' similar last name there. But thank you. I really appreciate you stopping by, supporting again. Thank you, Christian. Let me know if you have more questions. Sean, I have a boatload of Riot. My average is 789. What do you think Riot will be in the future? So, Sean, first off, you're winning it. Why? Because your cost average is in the low point. And what does that mean? It's not in the double digits. So you're winning right now. A lot of investors are taking a beating. So I wouldn't worry. I mean, if you're going long term, 789, you could easily get like, 200, 300, or 500% gain just with your cost average. So definitely in a winning state. So Riot earning tomorrow. So that's interesting with Riot coming out with earnings. Obviously Q1 at the end of March, price of Bitcoin was hovering around that, that 70K. But I think as soon as it's all going to be dependent on the price of Bitcoin. Let's say if Bitcoin makes a run tonight, I think all of that's really going to be the driver. If Wall Street performs well tomorrow, as well as Bitcoin showing signs of breaking into like that 96 plus, then I think that that's really going to drive growth opportunities. And on top of that, Riot does have, you know, that, you know, that contract where they were exploring HPC AI. That news may come out where they will provide more clarity on their strategic direction, like, you know, whether they will be pursuing AI or not. I think investors are really waiting on hearing about that now that we passed March timeframe already. But just looking at technicals of, you know, Bitcoin, let's just put some indicators on. I like putting MA cross. Let's take a look at the MA cross. Let's just update this in case you guys are all wondering if you're new to just technical analysis. You know, play around with, you know, moving averages. I think that's one of the most basic technical indicators. You know, here I put 50 for the short daily moving average and then 200-day moving average. So what you see in orange would be the 50-day moving average. That's like the average performance of the last 50 days of Bitcoin. It just cancels out all of that noise, removes like the volatility. So it's a trend line based on 50-day performance, whereas the green is a trend based on the 200-day moving average. We see price of Bitcoin just based on the crossings. Market participants are really pushing up the price of Bitcoin. What we've seen is like, you know, just that lower lows. But one of the key things is like seeing Bitcoin in this bull flag. You know, bull flags are real. You know, just as I'm drawing this out, you know, in real time, it's not like a perfect drawing, but just based on where we are, I mean, we see this bullish pennant flag playing out, you know, lower lows, Bitcoin retracing for many months. But what happened? We just saw the 50-day crossing pass, you know, back in April, and then we saw that green candle. It broke that 200-day moving average. Bitcoin price has been just consolidating, going down. We saw a number of people just you know just selling off, like, and taking their money out of like the Bitcoin ETFs like IBIT. But just with the last couple of weeks, we've just seen the consumer confidence change. A lot of people are putting their money back into Bitcoin, whether that's in ETFs or even, you know, buying Bitcoin on the exchanges. But this is definitely showing a Bitcoin coiling up, you know, to get, you know, into that prior resistance, whether that's going to be a V shape or we're going to see that U shape where it's going to break through that 110,000. You know, I think one of the key things is, you know, just having the whales buying up Bitcoin. So Kathy Woods is putting in so much money right now. Michael Saylor's doing the same. Even Cantor Fitzgerald, you know, supporting the 21 company. Um, all around the world, Semler Scientific, Metaplanet. There's just so much companies talking about Bitcoin, even GameStop. I think at one point we're going to see Bitcoin just run up so fast. Why? We hear about the supply shock. So on the exchanges, like when you think about like Bitcoin being purchased on like Coinbase or like one of those big exchanges like Binance, the amount of Bitcoin available has gone down dramatically over the last 5 years. And what does that mean? Price of Bitcoin is just going to go up. Supply and demand, you got to factor that in. You know, just looking at Bitcoin stock to flow model live chart, this is a key thing to also look at as well. Um, you know, one of the key things is, you know, just looking at the dots, and the dots would really represent the speed of Bitcoin. You know, when Bitcoin price goes up, it tends to have a higher relative strength going up to like above 70, 80. And then the dots start becoming more bright in color. it goes from like red to orange to like yellow hue and into that yellow neon green hue, uh, that is an indicator of a Bitcoin bull cycle. So we haven't even seen Bitcoin break out yet. So especially with the last Bitcoin halving event, we see, that run up to orange and yellow. We see that in every Bitcoin cycle. So we haven't seen this apex yet, which is expected to be coming. All right. So looks like we got, some folks here in the chat, but let me know what your questions are. What's your prediction of Bitcoin? So Sun is saying Bitcoin is going to make one more dip before it skies up. So, yep, where there's volatility, that's vitality. Bitcoin doesn't just go straight up one straight shot. There's always going to be ebbs and flows like a sine wave. But when you look at it, it always trends, upward from a long-term perspective. JG just joined, so that was one hell of a shakeout a few weeks ago when Mara went under $10. Now it's 40% higher. Such is the game they played. Definitely. I mean, these market makers, they are just experts. Let's talk about Mara now that JG Lee just brought it up. So 40% gain is when, the price was below $10, 9.90. I think this is where people were really just like shooken up, like what is going on? Whether you have a cost average of like $20, $15, or even uh, started buying in, or dollar cost averaging down as the price went down. But yeah, I mean, let's say if, buying in, there was a couple folks, a small percentage buying in, below the $10. And then now, up $14, that's over 40% gains. So definitely JG is right in that, where there's volatility with everything that's going on, there's definitely room for upside. Uh, but I think, let's say if, you did buy in at $10, or even, if you're holding at like, $25 or, $30, I wouldn't make any emotional plays. Again, this isn't financial advice. Everyone has their own way of investing, but just remain patient. Things are gonna, reverse where there's significant volatility, where things can just drop like 70% in a matter of weeks. You know, you will expect to see a big run up similar to what we saw back in September to November. We saw that big green run up. So that's typically what happens in this sector. So I definitely foresee, seeing this banana like type of run up for Mara and the miners. So definitely a banana like that's going to be coming. So thank you, JG, for putting that into perspective. All right, so let me go through strategies, technical analysis. So, you know, I like covering strategy because, it really performs similar to Bitcoin. And one of the things is that it's broken out first before the miners have. And I think that it's bound to do so because the miners still had, price action going into January as well. We saw miners like performing well in January, but with MSTR having a big run up back in November, it's been just going down since then. So I think because it's been going down earlier than the mining sector, that's why we're seeing MSTR break out first, where we're seeing higher lows on the support level. And I'm thinking as Bitcoin price gets to like 150K, we may very well see 600, 700 range. But let's say a Bitcoin 1x's goes to 200K, I do think that we have a strategy getting into that 4-digit range where it'll have a 200% gain for 100% gain on the Bitcoin run. So that's my assessment. But let me know what you think, just based on what your perspective is. Yeah. Also, if I were to just flip this to the weekly chart for strategy, let's take a look. So Mr. Seong asks, will Trump crash the market one more time before the market hit all-time high? So that's a good point. You know, especially with everything that's going on with tariff news and all of that. Definitely something we can't rule out yet. Obviously that 90-day postponement with a baseline of 10%, that really drove up the markets. And I think with all of the exclusions that came into play, that really brought hope in the entire Wall Street and Bitcoin market. But that doesn't mean that volatility has gone away yet. This market is tricky in that you'll get a couple weeks where you'll win, and then you'll get a couple weeks where you don't win, and that's where the bears take advantage. So it'll be interesting. I mean, we had Wall Street, S&P was like what, 61, 6,300, and then it dropped, significantly low. And then we've been just creeping up lately. But question is, will we V-shape back up or will we not? Hopefully, it'll be the similar case back when Trump was president during COVID, where things dropped down, everyone sold their stocks in Bitcoin, and all of a sudden it just bounced back up V-shaped. So, we do have a solid president. He knows how to play the art of the deal when it comes to business, and with all of the news around removing tax on the IRS, I think that really is going to show signs of hope. And we'll see. We'll see how all this plays out. But I think right now we're seeing some gradual stability with the markets. I think people are FOMOing in, if you will, into like the Max Sevens, into Bitcoin. Let's say if folks didn't have that confidence when it came to the psychological fear and greed index. I think the greed index has been slightly going up, which represents more inflows of money. And one thing to keep in mind is that the M2 money supply has been just going up, and Bitcoin tends to follow through with that on a 3 month lag time. Let's take a look at Riot Platforms, just on the technical. So very similar to what we see with all of the price actions, like whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's strategy, whether it's Mara, similar trajectory. We're looking at Riot. So I think because these companies have a similar approach, I mean, they're using the strategy playbook, when it comes to the big three Bitcoin miners. But when you look at Riot, one of the key indicators, and we also just, we covered this, the bullish engulfing, where we saw the subsequent green candle bigger than the prior candle. So bullish engulfing definitely is showing based on the technicals. And what does that mean, bullish engulfing? Well, that's obviously going to be coupled with rise in the MACD. We see MACD, 2612 cross through with the MACD. We see bullish divergence, which is a bull signal. Relative strength is picking up. I think we're seeing a reversal. We did see, October, September be such an ugly month, but what happened? It went from like six to, close to $16 like, within a matter of weeks. So because relative strength has been relatively uh, low for quite some time, since like October, November. It's been 6 months since relative strength has just been sitting around, heavily suppressed, oversold. Relative strength will always shoot back up. I tend not to say never or always, but based on technicals, we definitely will see the price action move up. And I definitely do see upside with Riot getting back into that double digit range shortly. All right, so just taking a look at CleanSpark. So I like covering CleanSpark as well. They have definitely a solid miner fleet. I mean, their fleet efficiency is number two, right behind Iron, and they also have the Bitcoin HODL approach as well. I mean, over 12,000 Bitcoin, so definitely a big HODL. Even bigger than Tesla. CleanSpark. I mean, their cost to mine is at a low costs when you compare it to the industry. So that's why CleanSpark is a company not to ignore. And we've seen the power in CleanSpark, with what had happened, going from like $3 to like $24 within a couple weeks. Same deal. It's been just retracing down lower lows, lower highs. I think people got shook out significantly. I think a lot of people like Stock Trader Max, he got shaken out as well. He sold at around, the price of $8, or I think even lower than that. But now CleanSpark above $9. It's gonna get back into double digits very soon. So I think we're definitely seeing some potential upside. All right, so I hope I answered your question there, Mr. Seong. Will Trump crash the market? It's possible, but I do think that with May coming, we're going to hear a lot about interest rate cuts. All of that's going to be factored in. So I do think that the cards are in favor for Trump, where he's going to be able to play out the rest of 2025, right? Especially with just so much volatility in Q1, which is not what we expected so far. But just looking at Bitcoin price, so obviously it's hovering, below 94,000 now. Just recent uh, price movement in the near term, we see it, going below 94,000 here. So it'll be interesting how things play out. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely do think that the miners are undervalued right now. Even when things go down, and if you have money to sprinkle, take advantage. Who knows? Bitcoin, will it break 100K? I definitely do think that Bitcoin is going to break 100K very soon. Um, the chances are in the next 2 weeks, I'm thinking that it's highly possible that Bitcoin, breaks into that 100K. You think about it, we're only like 6%, 6% away from Bitcoin getting back into that 100K. I mean, you look at it back in November, Bitcoin, it broke all-time highs. But now we have everyone embracing Bitcoin. Whoever doesn't embrace Bitcoin, that's just taking a big risk, or you just don't like the market for Bitcoin because you don't understand it. But I think that all of that's going to really change. All right, so we've gone for about 50 minutes. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. First off, thank you all for joining, and appreciate all of the questions everyone's asking, and the feedback provided. Um, with all of that, I think that is it. Hope you guys all enjoyed the content. Hit the like, subscribe if you're new, and we'll do it again next week. And I just um, posted a video. Uh, take a look at it if you haven't already done so. But let's hope for another solid week to come. Thank you, JG. I really appreciate it, man. Like, you're a big time support, and always appreciate the feedback you share with like the how to improve the video as well. And Mr. Siong, along with others, joining with Sean, Christian, Sun, Peter, Abel. Thank you all for joining, and you all have a great rest of the day. Take care.